Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Leigh Whannell's Insidious Chapter 3 in 2015. Here is the Blu-ray and we are back, another Insidious review. I said I'd probably be having a bit of a gap between the second and the third, but I just thought, let's just kind of get out of the way, because I don't feel too strongly about this one. I don't think it's a bad film, but I have mentioned before, that I think really the Insidious films get worse and worse as they go along, and as well, the Conjuring spin-offs and stuff, they're not too great either, some of them, and the whole universe is a mixed bag. It's got some greatness in there. Conjuring, of course, 1 and 2 for me are great. Insidious 1 is very good, but the other ones, not too much to speak of. I like Insidious 2, I think it's a good film. This one is another step down in the Insidious, franchise. I think, James Wan, of course, left in the director's chair. Leigh Whannell came over with his directorial debut. Of course, he wrote the first two, and of course, he's writing here again. This time, he's in the director's chair. So yes, I thought maybe there would be something interesting here. Since he actually conceived it really. But the directing in this is definitely a step down. It's very, very noticeable. That James Wan kind of left in the director's chair. He does make a cameo, of course. Not too much to speak of there. But yes, this film is nowhere near as acclaimed. Some people refer to the second. I don't. But I think I don't think it's a bad film. Some people really hate this film. Not quite for me. I just don't feel too strongly about it. So yes, this film, Stefanie Scott plays the main character, Quinn, and basically a teenager who's very recently lost her mother, and the very opening kind of scene really is her contacting Elise, played by Shaye once again. Again, she's in this film. She's in all 4 of them, and she not too great here. Again, very campy. Even worse than the 4th, really. But yes, she is back, and basically, this character of Quinn seeks her out, wants to contact her mother. Of course, things don't go according to plan, really. Other demons, kind of show up in that sense. Elise, kind of seeks them out as well by accident, kind of thing. And she doesn't want to do this. She tells her, Quinn to go to someone else. She comes across Specs and Tucker. And yes, this film, as well as being, another film with a different story, it's actually a prequel, of course. And it also shows how they formed up them 3, Tucker, Specs, and Elise. By the end of it, you'll know how it kind of formed. So yes, before they've actually ever met, when they do come into contact in this film, is before they've ever met before. So yeah, it's kind of interesting on paper. It could have been done better, but it's got its charms. I think actually maybe the comedy between Specs and Tucker is probably a bit better than it was in the second. There was a couple of off-tone moments there. In this one, the comedy's it's not original. It's very much the same in many senses to what they've done in the first film and the second. It's just it is more consistent. It's not off tone as much. It's kind of funny. It's charming. If they weren't in this film, it would be even worse. They are there and they do bring some charm to the film. But generally this film, I think the first half is definitely weak for me. I have to say that I did not like it at all, really. There were some moments that I thought, it's kind of effective at times in its horror. But again, the first half, you had some really annoying characters that really annoyed me. Personally, her friend, Quinn's friend, at school and stuff. But wow, she was annoying. She just kept doing really, really just awful things there. It's so annoying. I wish she, kind of just was not in the film, but she is in it, at first. Also, some other characters in there. Just some weird moments. Combine that with the kind of depressing nature of the film in the first half. The fact that it's very, very poorly lit at times, personally for me. Maybe the opening scene it's quite atmospheric and it's kind of effective in its lighting. A lot of the film here is very, very dingy and just not in a good way. Just very hard to make out and kind of really feel much for. There were some decent scares early on, but it's not as well built up, and the characters I didn't care about really, until the second half really. It has got some really cheap stuff as well in the writing, unfortunately. In the first half especially, Leigh Whannell of course writes and directs this film. The writing is nowhere near strong in this. There was some, tell me if you've picked up on it in the comments. But the whole thing with the phone, the texting with her other friend, the kind of the love interest, you could say, in the film. She kind of texts him, the banging on the wall and stuff. For me, that didn't make sense. How he kind of said, that he was, when she says, "Did I wake you?" and he says, "I'm not at home," and stuff like that. But it's true, it just didn't make sense. How would he know? And so very, very, if it was trying to make sense, it just didn't come across very, very well, and it was just stupid. It came across stupid. Many other moments in the film that aren't really well written for me, and actually overall the actual dialogue at first, especially, it's just very generic. It didn't make me really care for these characters. Nothing special at all, and yeah, just very, very, very cheap at times. It's got some interesting ideas going on in the first half, but the second half it definitely picks up a lot. It's just more investing. I did eventually somewhat care for some of these characters. Of course, Quinn, and of course it was nice to see. You could say the kind of team up of the three. They're in the other films. Tucker, Specs, and of course Elise. Elise in this is enjoyable as a character, but nowhere near as good as she wasn't. In the previous two, especially not the first. Her character is made, you could say she's kind of made into like a superhero, which, could have worked. At least it comes across as kind of campy and fun, but it's a bit stupid as well. At the same time, it's hard to at times take this film seriously. You combine that with the really, really just stupid moments in the script. But again, the second half, it has got some decent sequences. I wouldn't say any of this film is sustained good, really, in terms of quality for me. Certainly not any more than that either. It's mostly at its best, very, very average, or at least almost getting into the good mark. So even then, even the fact that the film does pick up in the second half, it still didn't, get into the 60% for me. It's a bit below that. I'll reveal my rating soon. The cinematography, at times, just as I say in the first half, very flat. There's not much depth really. What we saw in the first two, especially the first, just the depth of the cinematography, very, very effective here. For building atmosphere. Kind of at times with Dalton, the cinematography related to how he was kind of fading slowly. And it's kind of, yes, it was at a time. Other times, it's just for me a bit too dull. At least it was effective in what it was trying to convey for its visuals. This film at times is just, there's nothing there really. You could say it's not really thought out, it seems, personally for me. It's just very, very flat, especially the opening scenes. They're just like an advert. It just doesn't have that. It does pick up the sets towards the end. They kind of save that for the best till last. Are pretty impressive. It has got some entertaining moments. I think there is some effective scares, that are actually decent in how they're executed, in the second half of the film. And overall, just when the characters are all together, at least you've got some enjoyability, you've got some chemistry that works. You have, it's just some investing moments, and some throughout the film. There's some human moments littered throughout. I'll give it that. I think, in the end, I could just give it a like, only barely. I think I've never felt too strongly about this one. Of course, some people probably love it. That's great, but I don't personally, get connected to this as much as I do certainly the first one, and the second one either. But yes, this one, it has got some real lows of the film, especially early on. The humour is really bad at times. That character that I mentioned, really, really bad character. So annoying for me, and just some overall really, really bland writing. I feel, and throughout the film, I think it has got an atmosphere, somewhat, in the way it feels. Visually, not so much at first. It's quite flat, as I say, but it does pick up, and of course there is some more action-heavy stuff towards the end. But it's more entertaining than it was in the first half. So yeah, this film is mediocre, very, very close to average, but I think it didn't quite make it for me. Although I do like the film. If someone says, "Do you dislike it? Do you like it?" I like it, in that sense. Technically, but a few percentage less, and some other characters that were cut out if they weren't in it, like Tucker and Specs, and it probably would have been lower than that. I probably wouldn't have liked it. Elise and stuff. She did make the film more entertaining, but again, they could have done so much more of her character. For me, this is a bit of a kind of Yeah, it's a bit of a underwhelming film for sure. I don't expect to see a mediocre film ever. In that sense, I don't want to see a mediocre film. I don't want to see less than average. I don't even want to see an average film really. But I'm fine with an average film. This film is a 59%, in my opinion. It has some decent aspects. It's well made at times. There is some effective sound design. Once again, Leigh Whannell, he writes and directs this film. The direction was not that impressive overall. At times, it just didn't grab me that much early on, and it took a while, but it did get going. It was well directed, fairly, in the second half. It has got some effective moments, some entertaining, segments and stuff. And yeah, it was creepy. It was interesting what they done with the kind of the ending parts. The end in itself absolutely sucked. The ending to this film is cheap as hell. I really think. What were they thinking? It's just a very, very cheap jump scare there. Right up at the screen. Yeah, it'll get some people, but it's so cheap. It really is lazy there. Hate the ending. Hate the ending to this film, especially how it kind of wrapped up before that. It just really annoys me. And yes, I think a 59 is not an impressive score for me, but it's not a bad one. It's somewhere in between, of course. It's a film that I don't care about too much, but I like it. I kind of like it. I'd give it a like, thumbs up, kind of thing. I'd maybe recommend it, but I don't think it's as good as the James Wan directed ones, and it is better than 4. I think 4 is even worse than this, and it's not. As I say, it's not a bad film. It has got some decent aspects. The writing is definitely flawed. It's not that great at all in this film for me personally. For respect, of course, Leigh Whannell really done some very, very good writing in the first 2. This one falls short, and it doesn't feel as alive. This film, it feels dull at times early on, but it does pick up, and it's kind of entertaining. And I like it slightly, and yes, I think, it's not a bad horror film. There are worse out there, and I think it was interesting to see on Blu-ray. I've seen it a couple times now, probably like 3 times this film or something like that, and I've always felt it's just. Compared to especially the first, it's nothing special, and I don't think the first is a great film. It's no masterpiece. So yeah, this film is definitely under par a little bit, but it's mediocre. It's there, it's fine, kind of thing. I don't care about it too much. I liked it overall, and yeah, it's Insidious 3. Nothing special at all. But yeah, of course, thanks for watching. I will be reviewing. Maybe the 4th one won't be coming too soon. I do not like that film. I think it's worse than this, and I think. That was really, really boring, that film to see. If you've seen it, of course, let me know what you think in the comments, but for me personally, I'll say in advance, I was bored at times, really bored throughout the film. I think it's definitely the worst of the 4, and yes, of course, eventually, like a month or so, I'll be reviewing the Conjuring films. 2 thumbs up to both of them films, in advance. Love them both. I'll say what I prefer, of course, when I do them, and yes, thanks for watching my review.